Hello classmates, this is a summary of my 5-chapter research paper for EDLD 519. In my hypothetical situation, students at Butte High School have petitioned the school board to revise our 10-day attendance policy. Students always claim that our mandatory attendance policy is outdated and that any person who is able to complete assigned coursework should receive credit towards graduation regardless of whether they're in their class or not. I'm sure that that's a problem, a conversation that you have with your students as well. Attendance is an ongoing issue facing educators everywhere. Myriad studies have linked attendance and achievement already, but no data has been taken from Butte High School and very little data has been taken from the Rocky Mountain West. So the ultimate goal of the research was to examine the need for a new school district policy addressing the maximum number of absences students are allowed to have in order to earn credit in a class. For the research, 2 terms have been defined using the method of definition we've learned in this class. So a genus and a difference have been given for the words absenteeism and achievement. Absenteeism is a state of existence characterized by a lack of physical presence. The dictionary definition of absenteeism is very much the same, and the operational definition for this research is defined as the number of mathematics classes per grading period in which a mathematics student is not physically present in the class. Achievement is an outcome of an intentional process availed to produce a sought-after result. The dictionary definition is something that is accomplished as through great effort, skill, perseverance, or courage. For the purposes of measurement, however, achievement was defined as the percentage of total points earned by a mathematics student in a course at Butte High School that's a requirement of graduation. The significance of this research really lies in the fact that it uses local data to solve a local problem. This would represent the first time in the district history that students have approached the board with a request for a policy change and that their proposed solution was statistically analyzed for viability. The research was hypothetically important to consider the academic concerns of all stakeholders in the district in holding with the district mission of open participation regarding school policy. As I mentioned before, there are myriad studies of attendance and its relationship to achievement. The study that I chose was a summary called Chronic Absenteeism, Summarizing What We Know from Nationally Available Data by Balfans and Burns in 2012. And in their summary on absenteeism and achievement in the nation's schools, the authors compiled the results of several studies in 6 different states that analyzed student absenteeism and achievement. The studies described the occurrence and effects of absenteeism and chronic absenteeism, which is defined as missing more than 10% of the school year in pre-K through high school. The studies summarized the effects of income, gender, and ethnicity on absenteeism in American schools. The studies listed broad categories explaining why students do not attend. They delineated between those who cannot attend due to illness, students who will not attend because of something like bullying, or just choose not to attend because they and their family do not value school. If you're a classroom teacher, I'm sure you have had experience with all 3 of those categories. The authors reported that, quote, controlling for teacher quality, prior achievement, behavior, effort, and demographics, students who were chronically absent had significantly lower odds of closing their mathematics achievement gap than students who were equal in all other respects but attended school regularly, end quote. In summary, all studies in every state found that students need to attend school regularly to succeed. But of course, regardless of the studies, my students at Butte High School think that they're very special and should not have to attend school regularly. So this study examined the relationship, if any, between absences and achievement in a mathematics classroom. The data was ratio level data, and it consisted of a representative sample of 72 student records taken from my Infinite Campus gradebook, my electronic gradebook. The parameters of the study were a Cronbach's alpha of alpha of 0.05, margin of error of 5%, which means a confidence level of 95%, an effect size of 0.7, and an overlap of 0.49, a response distribution of 50%. Whew. Yay for stats class. The research question is there a relationship between the number of absences in a mathematics class and achievement in that mathematics class? Which leads to the research hypothesis: there will be a relationship between the number of absences and achievement in mathematics class. The population was every single one of my students, which totals 88, so I used the Rayosoft online sample size calculator and came up with a random sample of 72 students, representing those qualified to participate. The sample size is appropriate for the population based on a 5% margin of error and a response distribution of 50%. And the random nature of the sample allowed the findings to be generalized back to the population from which the sample was taken. The independent variable was the number of absences, and the dependent variable was the percentage of total points earned in that grading period. Both of those categories of data are ratio level because, of course, it is possible to have 0 absences from a math class, and unfortunately, my gradebook proves that it is also possible to earn a 0% or 0 of the possible points in a math class. Student attendance and achievement records, as I said before, were collected from my Infinite Campus gradebook and were randomized and made anonymous by removing the names and replacing them with identification numbers. Because both variables are ratio level and continuous in nature, the Pearson correlation coefficient was used to examine the relationship, and I used Excel to analyze and randomize the collected data. The null hypothesis, then, is that there is no experimentally important or consistent relationship between the number of absences in a mathematics class and the percentage of points earned in the mathematics class. The sample has a mean number of absences of 9.07 with a standard deviation of 8.5. So the standard deviation shows that there's a high degree of variation in the number of absences among my students. The mean percent of points earned was 70 with a standard deviation of 19.76, which of course means that 65% of my students earn between a 59 and an 89%. If you look at the scattergram, comparing the number of absences to the percent of points earned, the regression line indicates a negative relationship. The next graphic demonstrates the sample has a Pearson coefficient of negative 0.854, indicating a strong negative overlap. It translates to a coefficient of determination of 73%, meaning that the independent and dependent variables account for 73% of the difference between the groups, with only 27% of the difference caused by chance or some other factor. As I said before, the research computed a Pearson R value of negative 0.854, which did meet the level of experimental importance set at 0.7. The level of experimental consistency was critical at 0.232, meeting the level of experimental consistency at the 0.05 level. Therefore, there is a consistently important relationship between absences and achievement levels attained by mathematics students at Butte High School. So the null hypothesis was rejected. The significance of the correlation can be illustrated by predicting the score of a student who has missed 11 days of class. So that's one more than our 10-day cutoff rule. The predicted score would be found using an equation with a slope of negative 1.98 and a y-intercept of 88.38, indicating that if a student missed 11 days of school, we could predict that their score would be 66.6%. So passing, but a D. I guess a D stands for done. So after a thorough analysis of the data, the following recommendations are made for no new policy because it has been statistically demonstrated that student achievement can be predicted to decrease nearly 2% for every absence from a mathematics class. The 10-day rule policy is useful in promoting student preparation for college and career readiness. In order to encourage the highest degree of achievement possible from every student at Butte High School, attendance policies should be enforced. While expected, these findings could be improved upon by conducting qualitative research to see if every teacher in the mathematics department enforces the same grading policy. For example, I know I let my students turn in late work, and perhaps other teachers in the mathematics department give zeros if a student is not there on any given day. In addition, the analysis could be expanded to include data from other subjects. Perhaps attendance affects achievement differently for different topics of study. So in summary, achievement in the mathematics class is affected by attendance. Students who miss more than 10 days of math class can be predicted to have a lower achievement. The students' claims regarding that the district's attendance policy does not hold true, this doesn't hold any water.